Chapter 23: Real Life Breakthroughs. I've been privileged to facilitate belief breakthrough work with thousands of people. There are many, many stories I could share of people experiencing life-changing breakthroughs through these laws and principles. Here are just a few in each of the 4 domains of limitless living and in people's own words. Personal power breakthroughs. Kristen overcomes her shyness. For as long as I can remember, I've always been extremely shy. I hide in social settings. I'm never the one who reaches out to meet new people. It takes me a long time to feel comfortable being myself with people. As a result, I've missed out on so many things in my life because I choose not to put myself out there. I've lost out on going on trips and promotions at work. I've missed having fun in group settings. My shyness has really held me back in so many areas. When I attended my first Limitless event in August of 2016, I started out as I always have been. During exercises, I would hold back or just stay with my husband because I didn't want to work with anyone I didn't know. But over the course of the 3 days, I started opening up a little more. I actually ended up speaking on stage and sharing an experience from my life. I was shocked that I could even do it. It's so unlike me. Truthfully, I know that the person that's always been inside of me is completely different than what I show. I'm actually super fun and outgoing. After that event, I knew I wanted to be different. I set out to change and improve that about myself. My husband and I joined the Limitless Inner Circle, which required even more group interaction. At first, I had no intention of being up in front of anyone. I just wanted to be behind the scenes and to support my husband. But after attending the Limitless event that October, I set the intention to become Breakthrough Certified. It took me a while to complete, but I did it. A while later, we came to another Inner Circle event. As before, I had no intention of engaging. I was just going to listen. We broke off into groups and were supposed to share signature presentations with everyone. I didn't have one prepared. But after all I'd gone through, I didn't want to regret not stepping up. So I did it. I delivered a 15-minute presentation with ease, without even preparing. People in my group said I was a natural. I know that may not sound like a big deal, but it was monumental for me. It really was a miracle. Before my breakthroughs, I would have been absolutely terrified. I wouldn't have dreamed of doing something like that. I would have escaped out the back and just sat out the exercise. One of the biggest things I've worked through is fear of failure, fear of doing it wrong. I thought I would do everything wrong and I didn't want to be judged. I've worked with getting over that and sharing regardless and going with my intuition. So often I encounter things I know I can do, but I choose not to try because of fear of failure. I decided I would no longer be held back by that. My old crippling belief was, I don't do anything right. I've changed that belief to, I succeed in what I try. I am powerful. I have a message to share. I trust myself. I have stepped into my power. I've always known I have a message to share and an ability to connect with others. I've gone from being a completely shy introvert to reaching out and doing adventurous things and sharing my message. Wileen becomes the CEO of her own life. I recall a time in my business career when I was in line to become the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. The CEO had named me as his successor as part of his exit plans. But when the president of the company disagreed and gave him an ultimatum, I was let go. It was a huge shock. But I left with a lot of confidence in myself and my ability to find a new management job. I was quickly hired by another company. They didn't hire me as a manager, but they saw my value and promised me a lot of upward mobility. Although I had taken a huge pay cut, I jumped in and gave it everything I had. My experience in this new company was much different. In my previous company, my input and ideas were welcome, and my voice was heard. In this new company, I tried to make helpful suggestions. That ended when the owner of the company reprimanded me for speaking out of turn and sticking my nose where it didn't belong. I stayed there for a year thinking I could make a difference. But every time I tried, I got shot down. I ended up getting fired a week before a promised raise. I'd never been fired before. It was a huge blow to my self-esteem and self-confidence. I really started questioning my value, not only as an employee, but also as a leader and as a human being. I was 48 years old. I remember coming home the day I was fired and feeling defeated. I had no desire to go back to work. For a couple weeks, I just hung around the house. I had completely lost my drive. I started feeling a lot of self-pity. I also started resenting my husband, who was disabled. His fixed disability income wasn't enough to support our family, and I had to work to make up the difference. I was really stuck in victim mode. After a few weeks, reality kicked in, and I knew I needed to bring in income. I found a job as a shipping manager starting at $12 an hour. My self-worth was at an all-time low. I believed I was only worth doing what other people told me to do, just clocking in and getting a paycheck. I didn't trust that my employers would take care of me. I had made a decision that I was just going to get let go again anyway, and nothing was secure. As a result, I didn't give as much. I wasn't as dedicated to my job as I had been in the past, and it wasn't as fulfilling. That was out of alignment with who I really am. After working at this job for a month, on February 2nd, 2013, I had a heart attack at the age of 49. I was told it was caused by stress. The doctor told me I needed 6 to 8 weeks of recovery with no stress or physical activity. I took the time off and then returned to work. It was at this time that I was introduced to a new entrepreneurial opportunity that I began building part-time. Though excited about the business, I feared that if I were to put my heart and soul into it, I would have another heart attack. I started working with Kris Krohn as a personal mentor. We addressed this fear head-on. I discovered that my heart attack was not caused by outside factors, but because I was living an inauthentic life that wasn't aligned with my values. I was able to change my beliefs and become aligned with my truth. I accepted there was more to me than I was giving myself credit for. Within 2 months of starting my new business, I made twice the money I was making in my full-time job. A month later, I quit my job with absolute faith that I could continue making the income I needed for my family. In that first year, I earned $40,000 from my business, which was more than double the amount I had been earning in my job. I very soon had many opportunities to speak on stages. I had never been much of a public speaker, but my ability to inspire and transform audiences improved dramatically. I have had countless individuals tell me that something I said from stage totally changed their lives. I've been able to help hundreds of people launch their own businesses. I'm far beyond where I ever was before as a leader. People now look to me for mentorship and inspiration. I've continued supporting our family and we live a comfortable life. Through my business and investing, we've become financially free. Our residual income exceeds our monthly expenses. I mentor other people to help them create major transformation in their lives. Wealth breakthroughs. Irina climbs out of a financial hole. Before Limitless, I was a stay-at-home mom, and my husband and I were really struggling financially. I have studied personal development for years. I understood the idea of abundance and the principle that you create everything in your mind before it manifests as reality. But I was frustrated because nothing was showing up in my life. I was watching other people thrive while we could barely make ends meet. I wanted to get a job to bring in additional income. I got a job with a training and coaching company where there was the possibility of making a lot of money by selling programs, but I wasn't making much at all to begin with. We received an invitation to Limitless about the same time my husband lost his job. So we went to the event in a worse position than we'd ever been in. After the event, I knew this was exactly what we needed, so we signed up for ongoing training in the Inner Circle program. This in itself was a miracle because we were only able to do it by finding a resource we didn't know we had. I started learning how money is connected to living purpose. I started getting more intentional about my purpose and what I wanted to create. I wanted to mentor other people to heal and break through their limitation as I had. I had tried to do that prior to experiencing Limitless, but I was struggling to get people to sign up. Previously, I didn't believe it would be possible to find anyone willing to mentor with me. In my position as a mentor within my company, they set the prices, which made me so scared I would stop breathing just thinking about it. I knew I had the talent and skills, but just imagining that someone would pay me so much money was very hard to accept. But it didn't actually take long for me to sign up my first $10,000 coaching client. This was my first big awakening. My boss started asking me to do discovery sessions for company seminars we were doing. On our very first event, I closed $50,000 in training programs in one day, signing up 3 personal clients and 2 company clients. This was a company record and far beyond anything I had achieved before. In fact, I had been fired from another training company for not being able to sell the required $800 per month. And it didn't stop there. I continued breaking records, including closing $100,000 of business in one day and later $250,000 in 1 month. The year before attending Limitless in 2015, my husband and I made about $35,000. As of writing this in the fall of 2016, I have personally made more than $95,000 this year, and the year isn't even over yet. It feels incredible and liberating. I'm in a space where I know if I need money for something, it's going to show up. There's nothing I cannot do. If I want to purchase a program but don't have the money, I know I can manifest it. If we want to go on vacation, I know we can manifest it. It's never about the money anymore. Money has been taken out of the decision-making process. It's an amazing way to be with money, to know money will show up whenever you need it. I used to view money as a scary thing, a monster that can chew you up and spit you out and is always controlling you. Now I view it as a friend that shows up to support me anytime I need it. The real miracle for me has been less the money itself and more about my mindset. If my money were to disappear today, I wouldn't feel any less content or happy. That's been the most important shift in my life as regards to wealth. I know it's going to keep growing and I don't have to worry about how and when and what. It's just there. Eric goes from rock bottom to $100,000 a month in 3 years. I took a major leap of faith a few years ago. I had been waiting tables full-time to support my family. I had become certified in a holistic healthcare technique that I loved and dreamed of being able to practice full-time. I felt impressed to quit my job even though I had no office, no steady clientele, and no real outside income coming in. Because of my lack of entrepreneurial experience, my business floundered for several months. Things became so bad that I finally had to sit my wife down one day and explain to her that I hadn't even made enough money to buy food for us for that month. I had hit financial rock bottom. Because we were desperate to get out of the financial hole that we were in, we started looking for answers. We attended a seminar that gave us much needed hope and real-life skills that we could begin to implement immediately. On the final day of the seminar, the presenter offered a 6-month group coaching program. I felt myself get more and more excited as I listened to the details of this program. I knew in my heart that if I could somehow receive the training, I could get us out of the rut we were in. There was just one problem. The cost of the program was $5,000, which we certainly didn't have at the time. So I sat down, feeling dejected. My wife urged me to sign up for the program. I protested, not knowing how I could pay for a course with money I didn't have. She then asked me a simple question. Is it right? My logic told me no, but my intuition told me yes. She responded with what has become one of our life mantras. If it's right, what else matters? So I went to the back table and picked up a registration form. I was freaking out so bad I was hyperventilating. Thankfully, my wife came up to me again and said, "Is it right?" I nodded my head. Then what else matters? I maxed out every credit card we had and signed up for the mentoring. It paid off immediately and in a big way. My income quintupled within 4 months. Then I hit a plateau for about 3 months. I told my wife I needed a personal mentor. I found one, and we maxed out another credit card. Immediately after, I felt prompted to approach my original mentor for a more personal relationship. He told me it would be $25,000 and then asked, "How soon can you have the money?" Without thinking, I said, "Tomorrow." I had no idea how I was going to come up with the money, but I did it. Creative ideas kept popping into my head. I followed all of them, and within 24 hours, I created $25,000. From that personal mentoring, my income jumped to between $20,000 and $30,000 per month. But then I hit another plateau. I made several business mistakes. I decided it was time to seek out another mentor. In early January of 2016, I felt prompted to reach out to Kris Krohn on Facebook. I had never met him, so the prompting was totally out of the blue. We spoke, and he invited me to Limitless. On the first day, I told my wife that it felt right to seek him as my next mentor. Once again, I followed my intuition. I met with Kris and he made an offer for personal mentoring. Again, the number made me gulp. But with my wife's counsel in the back of my mind, if it's right, then what else matters? I moved forward and again figured out how to come up with the money. When we started working together, I was averaging $20,000 per month. Now I'm averaging $100,000 per month. This has happened because I've been willing to follow intuition, take huge leaps of faith, and work with mentors. My wife's statement was a major breakthrough for me. If it's right, what else matters? Before that, one of my biggest mistakes used to be saying, "I'll think about it." I know from personal experience that we often logic our way out of manifesting miracles. The path to manifesting major miracles usually doesn't make a lot of sense to the logical brain. It didn't make logical sense to invest what I've invested in mentors. It didn't make logical sense to quit my job when I don't have the resources. But I did it simply because I felt in my heart that it was right for me, and I will forever be grateful that I did. To manifest miracles, you have to trust your intuition and your heart versus doing what your logical brain says to do. It makes such a huge difference. It allows you to open up to inspiration, which will tell you how to manifest your own miracles in your life. Health breakthroughs. Kara overcomes chronic illness and pain. Before learning Belief Breakthrough, I suffered from chronic illness for 22 years. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a condition similar to arthritis. It affects the central nervous system and creates intense physical pain, chronic fatigue, depression, and an inability to lose weight, among other symptoms. The only thing doctors can do for it is give you medication to alleviate the pain, but these medications have a long list of intense side effects, and they don't fix anything anyway. I tried a lot of things to get rid of it over the years, including things like energy healing. Some of them would create temporary relief from the symptoms, but I would still have cycles where I would sink back to rock bottom. Nothing worked permanently. I realized I was just treating symptoms instead of getting to the root of the problem. I understood that emotions could affect the physical body, but it wasn't clear to me how the stories we tell ourselves and the beliefs we have are the seeds that create fruit in our lives, whether good or rotten. When I attended my first seminar with Kris, he taught about roots and fruits and about the stories we tell ourselves. I had a huge epiphany. I spent the next few months becoming aware of the stories I had created from my perceptions of my childhood. In that time, my mind and body really resisted the idea that I could be responsible for my own pain and symptoms. I shut down big time. My body got worse than it had ever been. I went into a dark place that summer. I wasn't clear on how to clear and release the emotions and physical symptoms. But when I attended my first Limitless seminar and learned the belief breakthrough process, everything became clear to me. It was so simple, and I love simplicity. I immediately joined the inner circle because I knew I needed support. I had been doing my healing journey by myself for so long. I wanted to surround myself with like-minded people who would love me no matter what and would create a place of both safety and honesty. After about a month of being in the inner circle, I attended a training where we did a specific exercise intended to break through the stories in our heads. I was in so much physical pain that day that I could hardly stand. I put on a brave face and no one knew how badly I was struggling. One of my beliefs was, I don't have any control over my body. Kris was talking about stories and how they create evidence in our lives. He then looked me in the eyes and said, "Evidence like fake diseases." It hit me to my core because I had been to multiple doctors and none of them could tell me anything. They told me it was all in my head. I realized that my illness was a product of shame and guilt I had carried from my childhood. I thought I must have done something to deserve it. It was a lightning bolt moment for me. My perception was no longer the shame, guilt, and victimhood. My perspective was if it's all in my head, then I have the power to change it. For the next 3 weeks, I spent every possible free moment writing down all my limiting beliefs and stories and turning them around. For the first time in my healing journey, I was choosing something different. Within 3 weeks, I was completely pain-free. I'm now functioning on a level that I've never experienced in my life. Occasionally, my body will speak to me and tell me something is out of alignment, but I'm able to shift it and I don't experience discomfort for more than a few minutes. The anxiety, depression, and paranoia which I've lived my whole life no longer control me. Because of my miracle, I'm now super passionate about helping people with chronic illness and pain. I'm living proof that miracles are possible and that with the right knowledge and process, real physical healing can happen. Jennifer loses 70 pounds in 8 months. As a child, I was an active, vibrant, bright, and passionate girl. I started dancing at age 3 and acting in plays by age 10. As a teenager, I was a cheerleader and on the drill team. I was always super skinny and fit. At age 14, I won the title of Miss Teen Utah. But that year, after winning the pageant, I broke my back. I had to lay in bed for months to heal. During that time, my muscles all atrophied. As a result, my body shape changed dramatically. My body was never the same from that point. I also felt very alone during this time. Few people came to visit me. I didn't know if I would ever walk or dance again. It started a ripple effect of self-doubt and feelings of unworthiness. As I grew, I kept gaining weight. It seemed like no matter what I did, it was impossible to lose it. And even if I could, it was tiny amounts and would only last a short time. As an adult, I ended up at 230 pounds and size 20 pants. This was a lot of weight for my petite dancer frame to carry. I also developed depression, anxiety, and diseases. All my false beliefs and perceptions compounded until I felt buried alive. I was so depressed that it was a struggle to get out of bed in the morning. In fact, I got to a point where I no longer wanted to live. I would put on a fake mask every day. I hated my life and who I was. I was in an abusive marriage to a man who I had attracted because of my feelings of unworthiness. In January of 2016, I came to my first Limitless event and learned about belief breakthrough. I realized I had been starving myself of food, connection, life, joy, personal power, and freedom. As I learned to love myself, I fed myself with healthy food, connection, and positive thoughts. I finally started to live again. The pounds just started falling off. In March, I came back to my second event, and that weekend alone, I lost 5 pounds. As I used belief breakthrough to forgive and let go of things from my past, the weight that was resonating with my negative thoughts just fell away as my thoughts shifted. I had developed hundreds of limiting beliefs about myself from the age of 14. I'm not lovable. I'll never be enough. I'm not capable. I'm not pretty. I will always be fat. I'm not desirable. I can't connect with people. I can't make friends. No one wants to be around me. And on and on. The list was daunting. I started processing and changing all of them relentlessly. As each belief would come up, I wouldn't let it sit for a minute. I saw these lies that had taken such a strong hold on my mind to the point that I lost every ounce of belief in myself. I started to believe in myself again and to see who I really was. I let go of negative thoughts and beliefs. I fed my mind positive words and affirmations. I now know I am beautiful, smart, strong, and capable. I connect deeply with people. I make friends easily. I have the light back in my eyes and passion back into my life. I have chosen to live with joy and passion. I now eat whole, healthy food. I don't feel the need to starve myself and then gorge on empty calories to try and fill myself. I had starved myself fat and sick. Now I am feeding myself whole and thin. When I chose to live again, I started moving my body. I started exercising and working out at the gym. I discovered that I love to run. I also hike a lot. My favorite thing is that I've started dancing again. With all these changes, the weight has been melting off. I watched the scale as I lost 20, then 30, then 40 pounds and more. Within 8 months of my first Limitless event, I had lost 70 pounds. As of writing this, I weigh 161 pounds and I'm down to a size 8, and the weight continues to fall off. I also chose to leave my husband after 17 years of abuse. I have been dating again and creating healthy relationships. That vibrant, beautiful, passionate girl who I thought I had lost forever is back. I can't express how good it feels. Connection breakthroughs. Marianne and Anthony overcome addiction and infidelity and create a limitless marriage. We met at a dance when Marianne was 14 years old and Anthony was 15. We got married when we were 18 and 19. We were just kids. We really had no idea what we were doing. We were blissfully ignorant of what lay ahead. After all, the fairy tales end with the wedding day happily ever after. Our relationship disintegrated over time. We drifted apart with the usual busyness of going to school, getting jobs, and trying to build a home and family. The happily ever after storybook ending we had envisioned turned into a nightmare instead. We did our best to keep it together, but we weren't equipped at all. We had no idea what we were doing and no handbook to guide us. We were shooting in the dark with limiting beliefs as ammunition. Statistically, our marriage didn't stand a chance. From the age of 8, Anthony had an addiction to pornography, which led to repeated infidelity in our marriage. Over time, it became obvious how that story was going to end. After one of the affairs, we hit D-Day. It was time for a decision to be made. We both had to choose, once and for all, whether we were in or out. Anthony was feeling so low that he even wondered if it was even worth living anymore. Even through all that, we loved each other. Marianne told Anthony, "I love you so much, and this self-destructive tendency on both of our parts needs to stop. Are you in or out? No matter what you choose, I'm okay." For Anthony, this was a huge and scary moment. It was the pattern interrupt he needed to stop blaming Marianne. For her part, Marianne stopped thinking that something in her had to be fixed and stopped blaming herself. She also admitted that she had her own addiction. She was addicted to creating drama and crisis in her life so that people would buy her story and give her sympathy. It felt like the only way she could ever get the love and attention she was craving. When we discovered Belief Breakthrough, we were given the tools we had desperately needed for so long. We both experienced a complete 180-degree turnaround. We stopped blaming ourselves and each other, and instead took accountability for what each one of us had created. Not everything changed overnight. It took commitment and time. But the changes did happen much faster than we ever thought possible. And we found that it doesn't have to be a hard journey. It can be full of joy. It can even be fun. You can make any bit of the experience what you want it to be. You get to pick the emotion you attach to whatever your experience is. We took the opportunity to start completely over. After D-Day, the relationship as we knew it was gone, and we got the opportunity to start fresh one with another, to restart and recommit. We are even planning a renewal wedding ceremony. After Belief Breakthrough work, our marriage no longer suffers from the effects of addiction. Anthony was able to figure out the emotional and circumstantial triggers attached to the addiction, which were causing him to repeatedly go back to the addiction as a source of comfort or medication. Up until Anthony discovered Belief Breakthrough work, he never thought he'd be able to conquer his addiction for good. He had been through many recovery programs and they all told him, once an addict, always an addict. He thought white-knuckling it through life was the best he could hope for. Our connection and intimacy are phenomenal. Our intimacy goes so much further than simply physical intimacy now. It encompasses spiritual, emotional, and mental intimacy. We've learned to become unconditional with sex and to be intimate without necessarily being sexual. We've learned that sex is the result of ultimate connection and intimacy, not the source. Because of Belief Breakthrough, we have our fairy tale marriage and we are living it every day. Michelle reconnects with her estranged father-in-law. My husband and I have always loved each other, but like all couples, we have had our struggles. We used to fight a lot about money and the typical things like how to run a household and parent. My husband would tell his father about some of our struggles. His father was very blunt in his advice. He would tell my husband things like, "You need to strap on a pair. What kind of man are you?" He told my husband to tell me, "If you don't like how things are going, then here's where you can go and here's how to get there." He basically told my husband to divorce me. It was so hurtful. This obviously caused a ton of conflict between all of us. When my father-in-law tried to drag our kids into the fights and manipulate them, that's when I drew the line and cut him off. He was no longer welcome in our family. Thankfully, my husband supported my decision. After being estranged for 5 years, my husband and I discovered Limitless. We started having major breakthroughs and our relationship got stronger and stronger. 9 months after our first Limitless event, we attended a retreat where we performed a forgiveness exercise. The person who came up for me was my father-in-law. I did a lot of deep forgiveness work and was able to completely let go of all my resentment toward him. We live in Idaho, and my father-in-law lives in Wyoming. Amazingly, while we were at that retreat in Utah, we just happened to run into my father-in-law. We were able to spend a couple hours talking and reconnecting. My father-in-law genuinely apologized for the first time. If I hadn't have done that forgiveness work, I wouldn't have been in a position to reconcile. It opened my heart to see things from his perspective. Looking back, I now understand that he was sincerely trying to help his son, however misguided it may have been. His wife had left him, and he was completely blindsided by it. So he was trying to protect his son from being hurt in the same way he had been. In his mind, he was trying to be empathetic to my husband when he would talk about our marital struggles. I see now how the whole thing came from my husband seeking empathy and his dad trying to give him empathy. It became an ugly triangle of he said, she said. Through belief breakthrough work, my husband and I realized we are different, and because we are different, the relationship with his father needed to be different. We have a greater understanding. The one thing you can't replace in this life is time lost with loved ones. I can step back and recognize how all of us have been reactionary. It has truly been a miracle. I was in a place where I was content with never seeing him again in this life. I figured it would all get worked out in the next life. I'm so grateful it is getting worked out now. Here are some quotes on the topic discussed in this chapter. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Security does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than exposure. Helen Keller. No one will act for you. Your plans will remain no more than an idler's dream until you rise up and fight against the forces that would keep you small. To take action is always dangerous, but to sit and wait for the good things of life to fall into your lap is the only calling where failures excel. Og Mandino. This is my world, my stamping ground. I must run free, mad-hearted, bellowing with pain and ecstasy, charging with lowered horns, ripping up the barricades that hem me in and stifle me. I must have room to expand. Henry Miller. Life is too short to be little. Benjamin Disraeli. Ask no one for permission to perform that which is within you to do. Boldly strike out upon your own initiative and do while the multitude stand by in mouth-stretched awe. The reliant, the bold, the conquering chief steps forward and plucks the prize while all the others stand by and marvel at his daring. Albert Lewis Pelton. If any organism fails to fulfill its potentialities, it becomes sick. William James. May you live all the days of your life. Jonathan Swift. Everything will change when your desire to move on exceeds your desire to hold on. Alan H. Cohen. We make a living by what we get, but a life by what we give. B.J. Palmer.